The story begins with Eris waking up from sleep, her thoughts still hazy from the transition into this new world. "Did you say I was supposed to enter the imperial palace today?" she asked her handmaiden, who calmly replied, "Yes, my lady. Your bathwater is ready now." Eris had transmigrated to another world, and despite the confusion, she seemed to be maintaining the appearance of a noble lady well enough that no one around her suspected anything was amiss. It was a strange situation, but she had little choice but to go along with it. People are born into the world and live whether they want to or not, Eris mused to herself. It was the same for me. I lived a normal life like others. But it's natural for unexpected events to appear in one's life. A maid interrupted her thoughts, asking, "My lady, are you up now?" "Yes," Eris replied, rising from the bed. In this world, a crown prince existed, knights patrolled the streets, and holy powers coexisted with magic. To be exact, this was the world of a classic romance novel that Eris had read just 2 days ago. She had become Eris Mygelian, the only daughter of a Marquis and the fiancée of the crown prince, a villainess in the story who ordered the female lead around. Some might have dreamt of coming to such a world, but for Eris, the reality was overwhelming. As her maids dressed her, she couldn't shake the disquieting thoughts that clouded her mind. "My lady, what are you thinking about?" one of the maids asked, breaking her reverie. "Thinking about how time passes slowly," Eris answered. "Wow, my lady, are you really looking forward to the engagement ceremony that much?" the maid asked with a smile. "Is that it?" Eris responded coldly. Deep down, she was terrified. She couldn't believe she would ever get used to this world. In truth, she didn't want to stay here at all. "I want to die as soon as possible and, after dying, return to my original world," she thought, staring at her reflection in the mirror. In the novel, Eris was engaged to the crown prince, who was in love with Helena, the daughter of a count whose family's reputation had been ruined. The prince had asked Helena to marry him, and the story ended with Helena becoming the empress while Eris, blinded by jealousy, poisoned Helena and was sentenced to death. After Eris killed her, Helena was resurrected by the high priest and lived happily ever after with the crown prince. Eris knew how the story would unfold and couldn't help but dread the path ahead. Eris was nothing more than a plot device for the main character to overcome challenges. A cliché character in a novel that was far from remarkable, and honestly, not even to her taste. As her carriage made its way to the imperial palace, Eris couldn't help but think of the readers who had adored Helena. They were probably satisfied with the story's outcome, but for Eris, it was just a series of steps leading to her inevitable demise. "I just want to hurry up and die," she thought bitterly. At the imperial palace, Eris was greeted by a butler. "It is a sunny afternoon, Lady Mygelian. His Highness is waiting," he informed her politely. "How kind of His Highness to wait for me." "It truly is a sunny afternoon," she replied with feigned warmth as she followed him. But inwardly she added, as if, "The person the crown prince is waiting for is not me. Truly, they're the couple that dazzles like the sun." In the garden, the crown prince, Alec, was already seated with Helena, his beloved. Lady Mygelian, you came," Helena called out cheerfully, welcoming her with a smile. "You're later than usual," Prince Alec remarked, his expression indifferent. "Pardon me, Your Highness. It is a beautiful day today," and Helena, Eris greeted them courteously. "It's a relief the tea hasn't grown cold yet." "Please, have a seat," Helena offered, her smile unwavering. "I told you to drop the formalities, Helena." "We're friends, aren't we, my lady?" Alec asked, his cold gaze fixed on Eris. Although Helena was descended from a prestigious family, she was now a commoner. The only reason she could be in their presence was because the Empress had accepted the Countess as the Crown Prince's nanny. If this were like any other day, Eris knew that she would be kicked out by the Crown Prince after criticizing Helena. But even causing a scene felt exhausting. Settling down, Eris decided to join them. "Tea tastes bitter when it has grown cold. Would you pour me a cup?" she asked Helena. "Ah yes," Helena replied happily, pouring her tea with grace. "Have you not learned how to pour your own tea at home, my lady? Or is your hand not feeling well?" Prince Alec asked coldly. "What do you mean? Your Highness is the one who said that we are friends. Is asking your friend for a cup of tea against the law?" Eris replied with a smile as she took a sip. According to the law, you are the one in a disadvantageous position, she thought to herself. Prince Alec glared at her, but before he could respond, Helena chimed in, "That's right, Alec. I poured her tea because she is my friend." "Helena," Alec began, his tone softening, but she interrupted him with a playful smile. "If you keep being so grumpy, I'm not going to pour you any tea, okay?" The tension eased as Helena's gentle demeanor diffused the situation, but Eris knew this was just another scene in a story that was not her own. Helena had a uniquely pure and straightforward personality. No matter what she did, she wasn't disliked by anyone. Instead, she was loved by everyone. This, however, was disappointing to Eris. "You guys are drinking without me?" A man's voice interrupted as he approached, wrapping his arms around Prince Alec and Helena from behind. "Jason!" Helena exclaimed in surprise. "Have you returned already?" "Yes, I'm planning to stay in the capital for a bit," he replied with a smile. "Jason Kajar," Prince Alec acknowledged calmly. "It's been a while, Your Highness," Jason greeted him warmly. Jason Kajar, better known as Warrior Jason rather than by his title as the eldest son of the dukedom, was a pitiful character in the novel, destined to pine after Helena with no hope of reciprocation. As expected, he treated Eris as if she were invisible. "Oh my, I've been very rude, Lady Mygelian. You are as beautiful as ever," Jason finally greeted Eris with a playful wink. "It is a beautiful day, Sir Kajar," she replied, her tone measured. "That name is too much for me, given how little I've contributed to the Kajar dukedom. I've always said just Jason is enough." "But how prim of you," he teased as he sat down. "How could I, as the fiancé of the crown prince?" Eris responded, deliberately emphasizing the word fiancé, which made the crown prince's expression tighten with anger. Alec was not a man who knew how to hide his emotions. "He must be upset that I emphasized my status in front of Helena," Eris thought, carefully watching his reaction. "There are many eyes watching, Your Highness," Jason cautioned, sensing the tension. "There is no need for me to consider the feelings of others," Alec replied coldly. "There is only one person under the sky who is allowed to do that. And moreover, that person even considers the comfort of his political opponents," Eris added, intentionally provoking him further. "Eris!" Helena called out, sensing the growing tension as everyone around them became visibly uneasy. "I'm sure he's furious because I implied that someone who isn't even the emperor is acting out of line," Eris thought, feeling a strange sense of satisfaction. It was peculiar how, despite supposedly being their childhood friend, she was treated as an outsider. "If I were really Eris Mygelian, my feelings would have been hurt." But for her, this was just another scene in a story she was forced to play along with. "I enjoyed the tea, Lady Antebellum," Eris said to Helena as she rose from her seat. "Eris," Helena stuttered, her voice uncertain. "You cannot speak informally to His Highness in the Imperial Palace, Lady Helena, because there are things such as status and position," Eris replied coldly. "Yes," Helena responded softly, bowing her head sadly. Prince Alec slammed the table in anger. "Who dares to warn her in front of me?" he demanded. "Don't do that, Alec," Helena pleaded, placing her hands on his to calm him. "But Helena, that girl," he began, looking tense. "I'm okay." "So don't be like that," she reassured him, her sad gaze softening his anger. Alec fell silent, unable to resist Helena's gentle nature. Eris knew this all too well. Helena was born with a kind nature and always forgave any offense against her. Besides, there were plenty of people around who were loyal to Helena. It doesn't matter if one person doesn't like her, Eris thought as she left the garden. As she walked toward her carriage, she noticed how the heavy makeup and dangling accessories felt burdensome. "Did you enjoy your time, my lady?" her coachman asked calmly. She gave a quick glance at the imperial palace before replying, "Yes." "Let's go," she ordered, settling inside. "Yes, my lady," he responded, driving the carriage back home. At home, Eris contemplated the perfect weather. Perfect for hanging herself, she thought grimly. "Of course, I didn't do it. I wouldn't even die anyway," she scoffed inwardly. Eris had already tried everything she could think of to return to the world she once lived in. Truly everything. Jumping from high places, ingesting poison meant for assassinating political rivals, even using a knife. But no matter what she tried, This world's law of causality wouldn't allow her to escape the destined story she was trapped in. If I jumped, the stable worker would catch me. If I took a large amount of poison as sleeping pills, I'd wake up the next day as if nothing had happened. When I used a knife, the doctor would rescue me, and my maids would blame some unidentified attacker, she thought bitterly. Once, she really did face a dangerous stranger, but even then, the plot unfolded without a hitch. How absurd, she muttered in frustration, recalling her previous attempts. I'm certain that I really did get hurt. If it hadn't hurt so much, I wouldn't feel this resentful. Every time she tried to return home, supernatural phenomena would arise, rendering all her efforts futile. She was trapped, bound by a story she never chose. Emma, Eris called, her voice calm but firm. Yes, my lady? Emma responded cheerfully, always eager to assist. Please find a powerful oracle for me. And don't let anyone else know, Eris instructed, her tone serious. Since that's the case, now I'm exploring the option of dealing with this supernaturally, she thought inwardly, determined to break free from the law of causality that bound her to this world. It wasn't long before Emma returned with good news, and Eris began preparing to see the oracle. As she dressed to go out, she glanced at the different hats offered to her, trying to choose one that wouldn't draw too much attention. This doesn't look like it will stand out, she thought. My lady. Since it's a long-awaited day, how about dressing up more finely before heading out? Emma suggested cheerfully, holding up a few more hats. What's the point? I'll return soon after meeting the oracle, Eris replied, dismissing the idea. Oh, but even so, since you're heading out anyway, why not shop for some clothes or accessories? And it would be nice if you could enjoy some sweet cookies as well, Emma added warmly. Well, I'll think about it, Eris responded, not entirely dismissing the idea. There's still plenty of time before the sun sets, so don't rush. Take your time before coming back, Emma advised politely. I understand, Eris replied, appreciating her handmaiden's thoughtfulness. I've heard that the new confectionery on Main Street sells really delicious cookies. You must try it if you pass by, Emma suggested, knotting Eris's ribbon with care. You keep talking about sweets. Are you sure you're not the one who wants to try some? Eris asked, her eyes shut. Although that's certainly a factor, it's more because sweet things lift one's mood. I'd just like for my lady to feel better, Emma answered with a smile. I'll try them, and if they're delicious, I'll buy some for you. But if they're not, I'm going to scold you, Eris playfully threatened. That's my lady right there, Emma said warmly, as the other maids joined in with affectionate smiles. Everyone in the household loved Eris. Did Eris love them too? The protagonist pondered, as she left them behind, heading out into the world that still felt foreign and constricting. In the city, Eris observed the soldiers patrolling the streets. They have guns. This world is closer to modernity than the Middle Ages, she noted. The streetlights, glowing softly, were powered by magitech. Ironically, this country in the novel developed magitech, yet it condemned magicians because their powers don't come from the god the country worships, she mused. We've arrived, my lady, her coachman informed her as the carriage came to a stop. You can head back now. I want to look around alone, she instructed her guard. No, you can't do that. Didn't my lady get attacked by a strange person before? It's dangerous, he replied, concerned. Do I have to repeat myself? You stand out too much. Go back, she insisted, her piercing gaze making him tense. Then, I shall just stay around in this area. I will come to escort my lady once your business is finished, he conceded. Fine. Do that, Eris said, dismissing him before walking away. She soon arrived at the shop Emma had mentioned, where she would find the oracle. The place was quiet as she carefully entered, her eyes scanning the various items on display. This doesn't feel like a place for an oracle. But there are many fascinating objects, she thought, her attention drawn to a strange book on a table. My lady, I wouldn't touch that if I were you, a voice suddenly called out, stopping her from opening the book. Eris looked up to see a woman standing before her. I came here because I have a concern. If you're the real deal, you should know what it is without me saying, right? She asked calmly. Of course, Lady Mazzillion. Or should I refer to you as the pitiful outsider? The woman replied with an unsettling calmness. Eris stood frozen, staring at the woman in front of her. The woman remained calm. "Follow me, Miss Outsider," she said, grabbing Eris's hand and startling her. She led Eris into an inner room. "I suppose your job will become easier since you already know what I am." "I want to return to my previous life," Eris said as she took a seat, observing the woman. "Miss Outsider, that is not as simple as you make it sound. And after smelling the scent of your soul, I can tell you've tried quite a few ways already," the woman replied, turning to face Eris. "The scent of my soul?" Eris asked. "Yes. Since you tried to release your soul on your own, the world wouldn't allow it," the woman explained. "I don't think she's not just guessing," Eris thought. "Wait here for a bit," the woman instructed as she began preparing something. "What is she doing?" Eris wondered, watching her closely. The woman scooped some liquid into a bowl and placed it in front of Eris. "Here, drink this." "Why should I?" "I don't even know what it is," Eris responded, eyeing the bowl warily. "Wouldn't it align with your goals if it were poison?" the woman said with a light giggle. Eris hesitated but then took the bowl and gulped down its contents. The taste was so foul that she nearly gagged, her face twisting in disgust. "Here's some candy to get rid of the taste," the woman said with a smile, offering her a sweet. "Are you giving me the antidote after you've poisoned me?" Eris thought. "I'm sure you've already realized that I'm no ordinary oracle," the woman said as she sat down. She opened her hand, and flames appeared, dancing on her palm. "Let me introduce myself. My name is Medea. I am the last sorceress of this land." "Sorceress?" Eris asked, visibly shocked. "I don't recall a sorceress ever appearing in the novel," she thought. "It seems you have many questions." "I'll answer as best I can," Medea offered. "If you're the last sorceress, does that mean there's really no one else?" Eris asked, cutting her off. "I'm the only one in this nation. The others are avoiding persecution, living far away. But that doesn't mean there are many of us left," Medea explained. "And you didn't mention a last name. Do sorceresses not have offspring?" Eris inquired. "Though it happens on rare occasions, it's uncommon for us to have offspring," Medea explained. "We value the existence of the individual rather than the family, so we only address each other by our first names. We see ourselves as sisters, not as part of any family lineage." Eris nodded, though her mind was focused elsewhere. "There's still so much I want to know, but I need to focus on my real reason for coming here," she thought. "Is there a way for me to return to the world I lived in before?" she asked Medea directly. "If you can endure the same kind of death you have before, there might be a way to help you. But this is the first time I've encountered someone like you in this lifetime, so I'll need to consult my sisters," Medea replied. "How long will that take?" Eris asked. "If I move quickly, it'll take about half a month. I hope you understand. My sisters live far from the continent," Medea explained. "And what if I don't want to risk death?" Eris asked, her hands clenching the fabric of her dress. "As an outsider, you shouldn't ask that of me," Medea said firmly. "You seem unfamiliar with the difference between magic and divinity. Divinity studies creation, while magic deals with anomalies. If you want to create a method that doesn't exist, you'll need to go to the Grand Temple and ask for divine intervention. Although, I can't say if such a method even exists through holy powers," Medea informed her. "I see," Eris said, placing a bag of coins on the table. "You don't need to pay for my services," Medea responded. "I'm giving this to put some pressure on you," Eris said as she stood up. "Your secret is more important than mine, so trust that I won't think of using it against you." Medea was momentarily speechless. "If it's the price of my life, I should accept it then," she finally said, taking the money. "I'll contact you if I learn something. Keep a mirror by your side at all times," she tells Eris before she left. "It's my first time encountering a character who wasn't in the original novel. I'll have to see if this will be beneficial or not," Eris thought as she walked through the busy streets. She noticed a crowd gathered in front of a shop. Why are there so many people here? She wondered, spotting the dessert shop her maids had mentioned. Are they all lining up for this? No matter how delicious it might be, this is too much. There will be another chance to get them, she thought, deciding to join the line. As Eris tried to squeeze through the crowd, she lost her footing and nearly fell backward, only to be caught by a man. "Are you all right?" he asked calmly. Eris turned to see his face. Black hair and tan skin. "I recognize this person," she thought, recalling the character. "Something bad almost happened," he said, releasing her. "The one who used all of his divine powers to resurrect Helena, the one who prayed for me to go to hell, the high priest Hybris. He's smiling at me right now, not knowing that he will come to hate me in the future," Eris thought as she watched him quietly. There was a silence between them. Hybris observed her calmly before asking, "Who are you?" The question made Eris's eyes widen in surprise. "I can't breathe. His gaze is piercing me like a knife," she thought, feeling uneasy under his intense stare. "Should I be honest and ask for help?" she wondered, looking away. Hybris was one of the male leads in the novel she found herself in. A man destined to do everything in his power to save Helena when she was poisoned in the future. In other words, he would eventually become her enemy. "If I say I'm not Eris, I might be used as a test subject. If the Crown Prince finds out, he could think I'm mad and send me to some remote island," she considered, her tension visible as she clenched her dress. "I can't let that happen." "What do you mean? Isn't it strange for a priest to be acquainted with an unmarried aristocratic lady?" she asked, her voice firm. "I'm not questioning your identity," he replied. "Then what are you referring to?" she demanded. Their exchange had attracted the attention of those nearby, and the whispers made Hybris tense. "It would be troubling to explain here," he admitted. As expected, he's cautious about the public eye, Eris thought, understanding his hesitation. As the Crown Prince's fiancée, she was used to being the center of attention. How could someone who is a priest interrogate others? Eris challenged, stepping closer. "It's not an interrogation." "How could someone who is a priest interrogate others?" Hybris asked, shaking slightly. "If the other party feels it's an interrogation, then it is one," she continued. "Is it not harassment if I touch a priest's chest just because I'm a woman?" Hybris seemed taken aback. "It seems I've misunderstood. I apologize for misspeaking," he tells her. "I accept your apology." "Goodbye," Eris said, turning to walk away. As the carriage moved, Eris couldn't stop thinking about her encounter with Hybris. "I regret it a little. I should have been honest with him and asked for help." Opportunities to approach the Grand Temple were rare, and Hybris was a high priest. The sorceress had hinted that there might be a way to return to her original world without dying, and the Grand Temple might hold that key. "I knew it. I should have just clung to Hybris and revealed my identity," she thought, holding her head in frustration. "The idea of having to die just to return feels so unfair. It's far better to ask a favor from a man who hates me than to die in any way." But since she had only skimmed the original novel, she had no idea what would happen next. "I just have to hope I meet Hybris again soon," she resolved as the carriage arrived home. As she stepped out of the carriage, her guard approached her. "The knight ordination ceremony is coming up soon. Will you not choose a personal knight again this year?" he asked, drawing her attention. "If you don't want an ordination, there's no need for it. But having a personal knight can be convenient in many ways, as they can accompany you during private and public affairs," he explained calmly. "The idea of personal use is a bit tempting," Eris mused, but she responded, "It's fine," turning away coolly. "But it would just mean adding another person to my care when I'll be leaving soon," she thought, walking ahead as he followed. "It's a pity. There are many who wish to become your personal knight, my lady," he remarked. "Me?" she asked, surprised. "Yes. Dedicating one's life to a beautiful lady is a knight's romantic dream," he replied. "What a flimsy dream," she mused. "Are they saying there's no value in dedicating one's life to a lady who isn't beautiful? No, it feels like taking someone's life when I don't even want it, so it's worrisome," she thought. She paused, then turned to meet his gaze. "Perhaps some people love that romantic dream, but not me. So you should dedicate your life to yourself, sir," she said firmly. Eris had no intention of becoming someone else's romantic dream or shouldering the weight of someone else's life. She recalled that High Priest Hybris was fond of sweet things, but due to his status, he had to enjoy them in secret and moderation. Helena had once met him outside the Grand Temple. "I'm sorry for calling you here. I can't enter the Grand Temple with my status," she said cheerfully, offering him a bag. "Ah. These are leaf-shaped cookies. Don't you like them? She asked. How did you know? Did you stand in line at the shop to buy these? He asked calmly. I was heading to the confectionery and remembered you, she replied. What? He asked, surprised. I also like sweet things, and it's enjoyable to share delicious things together, she said, causing his cheeks to flush. For someone like Hybris, who had always suppressed his desires due to the strict restrictions of his life as a priest, this moment with Helena allowed him to open up about his tastes. Eris remembered that Hybris's first unrequited love was mentioned in the early part of the novel. If Hybris was near the confectionery yesterday, does that mean he hasn't fallen for Helena yet? She wondered. It would be better if I take the initiative. There's no way he would help me if he falls in love with Helena. If I ask him to keep it a secret, he wouldn't gossip about a lady's request with his personality. It's probably best to go back to the confectionery if I want to see him again. If I wait for Hybris to visit the imperial palace and the crown prince gets involved, he'll accuse me of trying to seduce a priest. Even though I have no plans to interfere with his romance with Helena, I'll have to wait until Hybris appears in front of the confectionery, she decided inwardly. My lady, are you awake? Emma called from outside. You have to get ready soon. A message has come from His Majesty, asking you to come to the imperial palace, she informed Eris. By His Majesty. Is that the Emperor? Eris wondered, looking perplexed. It is a sunny afternoon, Your Majesty, Eris said, greeting the Emperor with a courteous bow. I apologize for summoning you so suddenly. Were you inconvenienced on your way here? He asked softly from his throne. I could never be inconvenienced by a summons from Your Majesty. I was only overjoyed, she replied. Though truthfully, having to prepare 10 times faster than usual made me feel a bit nauseous, she thought to herself. It seems you've learned how to speak in pleasantries. But today, I didn't call you here to discuss your tone, but rather your coming-of-age ceremony, the Emperor continued. My coming-of-age ceremony? Eris thought, almost startled. Although there is no precedent for such a thing, I will allow your coming-of-age ceremony to be held at the imperial palace, he told her. He's doing this because of the rumors. Rumors about the crown prince cherishing the commoner Helena and despising me, Eris thought. This was a slight against Marquis Mazzillion, her father, who, though furious, hadn't voiced his anger. The engagement between the crown prince and Eris was a political move by the emperor to promote unity with the nobles. By holding her ceremony at the imperial palace, the emperor was signaling that there wouldn't be any issues with the marriage. Thank you for your generosity. It will be a once-in-a-lifetime honor for my family, Eris said calmly, knowing there was no point in objecting. I've heard that the crown prince spends much of his time with the daughter of his nanny. Do you know her? The emperor inquired. You're referring to Lady Antebellum. When I was young, we often played together with the crown prince and Sir Kajar, Eris replied. So, this came about from the empress appointing Countess Antebellum as his nanny. The empress failed to correct the crown prince's bad habits, the emperor said, resting his hands against his chin. He spoke with the air of a benevolent grandfather, but Eris knew that this was the same man who had been ruthless enough to kill his own son. According to the novel, the first crown prince had been executed without evidence for supposedly intending to commit treason. The only reason the empress survived was that she was pregnant with the current crown prince at the time. It's understandable why she chose a friend in a similar position to be the crown prince's nanny, Eris thought. Are you jealous of that child? The emperor asked. No, she replied. That's right, there's no reason for you to be, he agreed. Come closer, he added calmly, drawing her attention as she ascended the steps, walking closer to him. A man's love is rarer than a seasonal flower. What's more important than love is that the power of that man's position will be conferred to you, he said, taking her hand in his. Yes, Your Majesty, she said calmly. You needn't be too impatient, thinking it's been too long since your father fulfilled his promise. Regardless, it is you who will become the crown princess and eventually the empress. Then, you will fill the palace with your people, and your child will become the crown prince. Do you understand? He said calmly, his words carrying weight. On the surface, his words seem placating, but they're actually meant to intimidate me, Eris thought. Yes, Your Majesty. I will keep that in mind, Eris replied, bowing. But the emperor chose the wrong person. I'm a foreigner who doesn't care about the fear of death or what happens to House Mazzillion, she thought inwardly. Outside the imperial palace, Eris walked slowly, deep in thought. Since I bear the title of fiancée, should I go see the crown prince? She wondered. Her mind drifted back to her guard's advice about choosing a knight. As she was lost in thought, someone approached from behind and startled her, causing her to bump into them. You surprised me, Miss Antebellum. To think you would run in such a strict place as the imperial palace, Eris said with a serious tone as she saw Helena on the floor. That's because I saw you, Eris. I wanted to greet you, Helena said softly. Then just call for me. You're not a child, so why does your hand move faster than your words? Eris inquired. Alec liked it, Helena stuttered. Not even a 5-year-old would do something like this, Eris thought, placing a hand on her head, unable to understand their reasoning. She noticed Helena's hand was hurt. Stand up. Did you get hurt? Eris asked politely. Oh, it's okay. I can just get treated by the imperial doctor, Helena said as Eris took her hand, observing the bruises. Why would the imperial doctor, who only treats the imperial family, tend to your wounds, Miss Antebellum? Eris asked, sounding perplexed. Because that person likes me, Helena said cheerfully, retracting her hand. I shouldn't have worried. I should have been concerned about myself, since I could have been severely punished for the sin of injuring Helena, Eris thought as she began to walk away. Eris, are you mad? Helena asked, following her. Yes, don't speak to me. You're annoying me, Eris said, trying to outpace her. I'm sorry, don't be mad, Eris, Helena pleaded, still trailing behind her. But why does this girl keep speaking informally to me? Eris wondered. Miss Antebellum, do you not understand why I am speaking formally to you, a commoner? Eris asked, stopping in her tracks. As the eldest daughter of a Marquis, it would be proper for me to speak informally to you since you're just a maid of the imperial palace, she added, turning to face Helena. But, Eris, Helena stuttered. The reason I speak formally to you, despite it being improper, is because both the Empress and the Crown Prince are fond of you, Eris said coldly. It's because we're friends, Eris. I want to be closer to you, Helena pleaded. In the novel, Helena only had memories of Alecto and Jason. If she truly saw me as a friend, there would have been mentions of memories with me, Eris thought. It seems like the author just made me the villainess without much thought. Then let's end our friendship. I don't wish to be friends with you. We were never meant to be friends, Eris replied. Is it because I'm close with the Crown Prince? Helena asked softly. You can have that damned Crown Prince all to yourself. I wouldn't take a man like him even if you gave him to me. Who are you trying to say is throwing away a friend for a man? Do you think everything will be okay just because you have a pretty face? Eris thought inwardly. She is pretty though, she conceded to herself, watching Helena. There's no other reason. Let's stop our conversation and stop being friends, Eris concluded. Suddenly, Prince Alec appeared behind Eris, grabbing her hand. Lady Mazzillion, you truly do not change. Rather, you're becoming more and more shameless, he said angrily. It is a sunny afternoon, Your Highness. This is the virtue of those with a high status, she replied coolly. How dare you speak of your status in front of me? Prince Alec demanded. I should be able to talk about such things in front of you, Your Highness, since we are engaged, she responded. It's only an engagement. He snapped. That petty thing can be called off at any time. Even if it's not you, there are plenty of women who want to become my fiancée. But would His Majesty think the same? She asked. Ha! You're already acting arrogant as if you're sure you'll become the Empress, he said coldly, letting go of her hand. Indeed, the only thing you're good at is flattering my father, he tells her. Alec, stop that. I'm the one in the wrong, Helena pleaded. Eris, no, Lady Mazzillion, was teaching me about etiquette, she said, placing her bruised arm on his dress. Helena, who injured you? Prince Alec asked, noticing her hurt hand. Oh, this? It's nothing. It doesn't hurt at all, she said softly. It was Lady Mazzillion. I saw it with my own eyes. Lady Mazzillion pushed Helena. That's why I escorted Your Highness here before things got worse. A maid shouted, pointing at Eris and startling them both. Although it's true that I pushed her, Why isn't she saying that it was Helena who surprised me first? Eris wondered, feeling tense. Prince Alec walked hastily to Eris and slapped her hard across the face. Helena covered her mouth in shock. Did I just get slapped? Eris thought, trembling as she held her cheek. Since you blemished my possession, it's only fair for me to leave a scar on you in return. Don't you think so, Lady Mazzillion? Alec said coldly. What fairness is he talking about? Eris thought. If he really wanted that, Helena should be the one hitting me. Then she realized, this is just like a scene from the novel. Back then I thought, wow, there really are all sorts of psychos. But now I'm living it, she said inwardly. She kept a straight face, but inwardly she was furious. Should I give that fool a slap in return? No, that would only get me imprisoned and make it harder to return to my world. If I want to avoid suspicion, I have to act like Eris, she decided. Let's go, Helena, Prince Alec commanded. Your Highness made a promise to House Mazzillion, not to me, Eris said, drawing his attention. What? He asked coldly. I will be marrying into the imperial family. Not you, Your Highness. Even if you don't want it, the marriage will happen. It's the same for me, she told him. It seems like Eris, who naively believed the crown prince would choose her in the end, tried to preserve her pride, she thought. Not you, but the imperial family? You're speaking interesting words. Didn't you tell me you loved me and wanted to get engaged just a while ago? Or are these your true thoughts now? He asked. Eris, you've really done a lot. Did Eris truly love the crown prince? She wondered. Although in the latter half of the novel, Helena claimed that Eris' emotions weren't love, neither Helena nor I truly know Eris. But if Eris really did love the crown prince, I want to respect those feelings, she pondered. I did love you, but that's no longer the case. I only brought up the imperial family because I wanted to point out that this engagement wasn't formed by my will, but by the will of my father and his majesty. If you still wish to call off the engagement, rather than getting angry at me, perhaps you should appeal to his majesty instead. Although, I suspect the emperor has already heard about this commotion, she said, startling Prince Alec. Then I will take my leave, she said, walking away. As she approached her carriage, her guard watched her silently. Let's return, she told him. Sir Qajar is waiting inside the carriage, he informed her. It's a sunny afternoon, my lady, Jason greeted as she entered the carriage. He looked perplexed when he noticed her bruised face. Pay no attention to my cheek. It has nothing to do with Sir Qajar, Eris said as she sat down. You're cutting straight to the chase, he remarked. Why are you here in this carriage? Eris asked him. There are things Duke Qajar would like to discuss with Marquis Mazzillion regarding the knighting ceremony. They said I was the only one who could help, so I thought I'd hitch a ride on your carriage as I run this errand. I'm so sick and tired of riding a horse that I don't even want to look at one anymore, Jason said with a sigh. If Sir Qajar were to request it, the imperial family would provide a carriage for you, Eris replied. A carriage from the imperial family wouldn't have such a beautiful lady in it, though, he remarked with a smile. I guess Jason is the stereotypical flirtatious warrior, a sweet talker, Eris thought as she watched him calmly. Aren't you heading off to your next guest? She inquired. Since I slayed the dragon that was the mother of nature, I'm hiding out in the city for a bit. Although it was something that it wanted, there are many dragons who hate me for it, he explained. It? Eris questioned, recalling the details from the novel. In the story, the only reason given for Jason's return was his desire to see Helena, but it seems there's more to it than that. When Jason was born, a high priest delivered an oracle stating that he was destined to become the dragon slayer. Although the Qajar Duchy was known for producing great warriors, because of that oracle, Jason had to endure harsh training from a young age. The novel started from the point where Jason slayed the dragon and returned to the imperial palace, supposedly so he could fall in love with the female lead. Eris had originally thought this was just a plot device to make Helena seem more desirable, but perhaps there's a deeper reason for why Jason was born as the dragon slayer. Sir Qajar, since we have some time before we arrive, why not share more of your story? She asked calmly. I'm surprised. I didn't think Lady Mazzillion would want to hear my story. I thought you had no interest in me, he said with a laugh. I don't. I just don't like you asking me questions. At the very least, when you're telling a story, you won't be asking me anything, she remarked. You're so cold-hearted. But sure, I can't deny a lady's request, regardless of her intentions, he said. Where should I start? Since the oracle from my birth is so famous it even spread outside the empire, I suppose I can skip that part. Indeed, I underwent harsh training so I would be able to slay dragons. Jason continued, describing how he wielded a sword as soon as he could walk and never rested. Although I once resented my parents, in retrospect, I think they did it to protect me. But back then, I didn't understand that. I thought maybe I should have just disappeared, so everyone else could be happy. I knew I would eventually kill a dragon, but I didn't know when. I never imagined the dragons, feeling threatened by the oracle, would attack the very place I was in. My home, Jason said, his voice steady but his eyes distant. So, I roamed around. It was supposed to make me stronger, but now that I think about it, he paused, his thoughts drifting. I think there was another reason. I thought maybe it would be better for me to just die. He remembered Helena's voice, clear in his memory. Jason, no matter where you are, I will always be with you, she had said, grounding him when he felt lost. In the end, both that feeling and I survived. I returned, intact, he continued. As Jason wandered, he met many people, made friends, and shared gifts. It was a precious experience, but the most important person I met wasn't the princess of a neighboring country, he admitted. The most important acquaintance wasn't the princess? That's a surprise, Eris remarked, her expression cool, though inwardly skeptical. Who does this flirt think he's fooling? She thought. It seems rumors about me and the princess have spread even to the capital, Jason noted calmly. You did go around making quite the fuss, Sir Kajar, she replied. Let's move past that, he said, dismissing the topic with a wave. The most important acquaintance I met while I was roaming was a dragon. Eris raised an eyebrow as Jason continued, like an adventurer in some fairy tale. I crossed marshes, mountains, rivers, and fields to meet it. It was so enormous that I wondered if I'd ever see anything as big as it was. The dragon told me that it appeared even larger because of the fear and sense of duty I carried. That's when I realized I was afraid of my own fate. Deep down, Jason had wanted to live and escape his destiny. The truth was that he was deeply unhappy with the burden placed on him. Ironically, it was only after meeting the dragon that I could finally voice my complaints. Maybe I thought it was the end. There was no way I could return to my old life even if I did defeat it. But the dragon's reaction wasn't what I expected. Warrior, you have finally come. Though it was but an instant for me, the time I spent waiting for you felt far too long, the dragon said to me. Did you know I was coming? Jason had asked, feeling a tension he couldn't shake. As the dragon explained, it wasn't actually God who delivered the oracle, Jason began. It manipulated the temple to orchestrate its own death. Essentially, the oracle was the dragon's doing, using my life as a sacrificial lamb. The actions I committed to bring about my death are not something the principle of causation would normally allow. As the light of nature and its greatest gift, I succeeded only after much effort. Though, of course, I paid a steep price, the dragon said calmly before transforming into a ball of light. Jason realized that what he had been staring at all along was not the dragon itself, but a reflection of his own fear. Its massive form soon faded, leaving only its heart for him to stab. He hesitated for a moment, then finally thrust his sword into the dragon's heart. The axis of the world shook, and that was how I took its life, he concluded. It was an intriguing story, but I didn't exactly feel sympathy, Eris thought, though she couldn't help but find the idea of a being manipulating a priest to orchestrate its own death quite interesting. What did it mean by the principle of causation does not allow it? That feels like it could be a clue, she thought. Do you know who the priest was? And what exactly do you mean by the principle of causation not allowing it? She asked, keeping her tone measured. It was Priest Matthias. I heard he returned to his hometown due to his old age. As for the principle of causation, I don't know either. It was just the answer the dragon gave me. There wasn't much explanation, and even if there had been, I doubt a mere human like me could understand it fully, Jason replied, his demeanor relaxed. Another mystery that's impossible to fully grasp, Eris thought. But if I press too much, I might raise suspicion. I see, she remarked coolly. I'll have to uncover the rest on my own, she resolved. I feel like we've gotten closer, Jason said suddenly, catching her off guard. What? Eris asked, her confusion evident. So, wouldn't it be all right if we started speaking less formally with each other from now on, Lady Mazzillion? Jason suggested with a smile. Is he starting to say things Helena would say because he likes her? Eris wondered. We're not close enough to drop formalities with each other, she replied calmly. He looks like a scolded puppy, she thought, noticing the pitiful expression in his eyes. Maybe I don't care as much because he's not an actual puppy, she mused, turning her gaze out the window as they rode in silence for the rest of the journey. When they arrived at the Mazzillion manor, Jason offered his hand to help her down from the carriage. Lady Mazzillion, he called, causing her to pause. What is it? She asked. Don't resent those kids too much. They've spent their entire lives in the Imperial Palace, barely meeting anyone their own age, so they're a bit clumsy, he explained. But from what I know, they're past the age where clumsiness is an excuse, she responded coldly. When Jason reached for her hand, she slapped it away, silencing him. Father is likely in the study, so I'll be going now. I hope your business goes well, she said, bowing slightly before turning to leave. Jason remained quiet, then bowed back. Yes, Lady Mazzillion, he said calmly. My lady, your cheeks. What happened? Emma exclaimed in shock as soon as she saw Eris. It's fine, Emma. No need to overreact, Eris replied calmly. How can you say it's fine? Emma protested, hurrying to get some ice, which she gently pressed against the bruises on Eris's face. I said it's fine, Eris repeated, sitting on her bed. It will be bad if the Marquis sees this at dinner. Let's try to keep the swelling down first, Emma insisted. Dinner? Eris asked, surprised. Yes, it's been a while since you last dined with the Marquis, hasn't it? Emma said cheerfully. No matter how much I've adapted to acting like Eris, I'm still not comfortable around Marquis Mazzillion. This is going to be bothersome, Eris thought. Soon, Eris found herself seated with her father, Marquis Mazzillion, in silence. She avoided making eye contact, glancing up only slightly. Eris, are you really thinking of not appointing a knight? Marquis Mazzillion asked abruptly, causing her to flinch as he finished his meal. I think the family's knights are sufficient already, Eris replied. If there are no special reasons, go to the knighting ceremony, the Marquis instructed. Every year, small families and commoners become knights to raise their status, but often their origins hold them back, preventing them from being chosen. Because maintaining good relationships with powerful families is crucial, knights are usually selected from those families. However, a knight of noble birth would prioritize their own interests, so you can't trust them with secretive tasks, they'll just blabber about it. The Marquis's gaze sharpened as he continued. There are also cases where the master ends up serving the knight when the hierarchy blurs, but that's not the original purpose of a knight. Send one to a place you won't go. Command him to do unspeakable things. Someone who won't disclose those things to others. Find someone who will die in your place if your schemes are uncovered. That is the duty of a knight, he tells her. This is good advice from a Marquis who understands his daughter well, Eris thought. But something feels off. It feels as if he's talking to me, not to Eris, but to me. Her eyes widened slightly. No matter how much I act like her, I'm not the real Eris. From small habits to tastes, everything has changed. There's no way a parent who has watched over Eris her whole life wouldn't notice. Should I apologize? Say something like, I'm sorry for inhabiting your daughter's body? If I tell him the truth, will he chase me out? Interrogate me about where the real Eris is? Will I be called a sorceress and face punishment? Fear welled up inside her, more intense than when she was discovered by Hybris. I feel guilty toward these people. The guilt of stealing her loving family. The Marquis got up from his seat, walking gently toward her, his gaze piercing. He paused for a moment before placing a hand on her shoulder, then quickly withdrew it and walked away. Eris watched him silently as he left the room. I miss my dad. What has become of me? Did I die? Am I alive? She wondered, her body trembling. If I'm missing, are my parents looking for me? Will I ever return? I'm scared. I want to go home, she thought, covering her face as tears streamed down her cheeks. Unbeknownst to her, her maid Emma watched from a distance, her expression filled with concern. Emma had been a servant in the Mazzillion household ever since the lady was born. She still remembered the day she first saw baby Eris. She was so adorable with her fair skin and lightly blushing cheeks. She looked like an angel, Emma recalled, thinking back to when she cradled the infant in her arms. It was natural for everyone to find babies cute, but Emma had fallen deeply in love with her precious lady. "Please grow up to be the happiest person in the world, my lady," she had whispered, holding the dear child close. As Eris grew, her beauty only blossomed further. Although many said Helena, a maid in the imperial palace, was the most beautiful, Emma believed that only those who hadn't seen her lady would say such a thing. She remembered informing Eris one morning about the arrival of a painter to create her portrait. Emma watched from a distance as Eris sat gracefully, allowing the artist to capture her likeness. Black hair like the dark night sky, skin that sparkles like fresh snow, and emerald eyes as deep as a summer forest. Her rose-colored lips could make anyone want to give her their heart, Emma thought, marveling at her lady's beauty. How can she be so angelic? Emma wondered. As the only daughter of a powerful family that led the empire, Eris was always given the best. But with that privilege came envious eyes that followed her every move. Emma recalled overhearing people gossiping about Eris. "Did you see the dress Lady Mazzillion is wearing? I heard she dared to request the imperial tailor to sew it for her," a man whispered. "She must be delusional, thinking she's already the crown princess, even though she's only a fiancée. She truly is as arrogant as they come," a lady added. Eris couldn't stand the harsh words being spoken about her. "Wait here for a bit, Emma," she said, striding confidently towards the gossiping group. "The way you speak is so petty," Eris said coldly. "I wondered what kind of lowlifes could be uttering such words, but it turns out to be children of well-known families." "Lady Mazzillion," they stammered, clearly taken aback. "To think that you would gossip so leisurely inside the sacred palace. How fearless," Eris continued, her gaze sharp. "Slandering the fiancé of the crown prince is no different than insulting the imperial family. I'm very curious what would happen if the emperor were to find out." Her words cut through the air, leaving the group in silent fear. "We're sorry, Lady Mazzillion. Please forgive us," they pleaded. Eris didn't bother trying to win over those who disliked her. Instead, she pretended to be even more vicious. On the outside, she appeared unfazed. It would be great if she were always happy. She deserves to be, Emma thought on their way back. At home, Emma brushed her lady's hair gently. "I could have told the Marquis myself," she said to Eris. "Huh?" Eris replied, unsure of what she meant. "The son of the Count from this morning. I could have made sure they wouldn't dare open their mouths again," Emma clarified. "There's no need for you to step in. I have to act vicious so that none of you will be disrespected," Eris told her calmly. "But we are different from you, my lady. We are of lowly birth," Emma said, pausing her work. "How naive," Eris replied. "People like to shift the blame meant for me onto all of you, tormenting you because of it. They say, like master, like servant. I can't stand to watch that. All of you should be walking around with your heads held high." When Eris was officially recognized as a candidate to become the crown prince's fiancée, she began learning the imperial palace's etiquette and practical affairs. This left her with little time to sleep and frequent visits to the palace. "Welcome back, my lady," Emma said, greeting a weary Eris who collapsed onto her bed. "I'll quickly prepare the bathwater," she tells Eris. "I'm tired." "I'll just sleep," Eris responded. Despite rumors spreading throughout the empire that the crown prince despised her, Eris never reacted. Even Emma refrained from comforting her, knowing it would hurt her pride. "My lady is slowly wasting away," Emma thought as she observed her quietly. One morning, while Emma was organizing the winter blankets, she happened to run into Eris seated quietly on the grass. She hasn't cried at all during all this. Never. Even when people pointed fingers at her, calling her evil, Emma thought, noticing her silence. "My lady, the wind is cold. How about getting up?" Emma said, rushing to cover Eris with a blanket. "Is love really that important?" she asked, startling Emma. Can one become empress just by smiling and being loved by the crown prince? That position isn't one you reach through love alone, Eris said sadly, her voice breaking. His Highness didn't recognize her efforts, Emma thought. The empress is supposed to support the emperor. That's what I've learned, and I've worked so hard, Eris continued, tears finally spilling over. It's all right if he doesn't love me, but he could at least acknowledge me. That child only knew how to laugh, and yet everyone loved her, she cried. Emma wished she were a sorceress, able to summon a thunderstorm to hide Eris's tears. My apologies, my lady. If only I could grant you your wish, Emma said, embracing her, trying to soothe her. My wish? Eris asked, tears still streaming down her cheeks. Yes, Emma replied softly. But at that moment, Eris wished she could disappear from this world. It would be nice if my wish came true, she whispered. Sometimes, miracles happen in the most unfortunate ways. It was like that on that day too. Emma began noticing subtle differences in Eris over time. My lady stopped tapping her fourth finger when she was deep in thought. Even her morning habit of drinking a cup of water and biting the ends of her nails vanished, Emma observed. She occasionally tested Eris to gauge her reactions, noting even her speech. Would you perhaps like something spicy today? Emma asked politely. I would be grateful if you made some, Eris responded. Grateful? Emma thought. My lady had never used such words with those of lower standing. The change in speech, the different walk, the altered habits, it wasn't the lady she knew. Who is this? She wondered, though she knew better than to voice such thoughts. People would think she was crazy, and she'd likely be dismissed. Where has my lady gone? She pondered secretly, fear creeping in. Determined to test her theories further, Emma tried again. My lady, do you remember when you were 6 and fell during your first horseback riding lesson? Didn't the crown prince help you up? She asked. Wasn't it when I was 15, not 6? Eris responded coolly. Ah yes. It was when you were 15, Emma quickly agreed. It's not just memory loss, only the minor habits have changed. My lady still remembers important facts, she thought. Stop with the idle talk, Emma, Eris warned, turning to meet her gaze. Yes, my lady, Emma replied, her suspicions deepening. The most unsettling part is how she pretends to be normal, she thought. At night, Emma couldn't shake her worries. What if my lady's body has been taken over by an evil sorcerer? She mused, sketching out bizarre scenarios in her mind. The thought terrified her even more. What should I do for my lady? She wondered in confusion. Just then, something outside caught her attention. She peeked through the window to see Eris wandering in the dark. My lady? Where are you heading in the middle of the night? It's dangerous, she whispered, trying to get her attention. In retrospect, Emma realized that many strange accidents had befallen Eris recently. What if those weren't accidents? She thought, her concern escalating. Suddenly, she became aware of the potential danger Eris faced in the darkness. No, she screamed in her mind, quickly grabbing a torch. She dashed outside, following Eris into the night. I saw her come this way. Where did she go? Emma wondered, tension building as she searched for Eris. My lady? She called softly, her voice barely above a whisper as she moved slowly, turning at the faintest sound. I can't lose her, she thought, panic rising. Finally, she spotted Eris. My lady? Emma said gently, rushing over and accidentally dropping her torch. Eris stood still, her back to Emma. My lady, why have you come out? It's dangerous. Let's return now, Emma urged softly, trying to draw her attention. I want to go home, Eris said, her voice tinged with sadness. Yes, let's go back to the house together, Emma replied quickly, moving closer and placing her hands on Eris's arms. I want to go home, Mom, Eris murmured, her eyes slightly closed. Sleepwalking? Emma thought, puzzled. My lady's mother. Her confusion deepened. I want to eat Mom's kimchi fried rice, Eris cried, her voice trembling. Emma, now dazed, let go of Eris and stepped back. It was then that Emma realized this girl was not truly her lady, not Lady Eris, who was always sincere, proud, and lovely. This was a pitiful soul, stumbling through an unwanted dream. Send me home, Eris cried, tears streaming down her face. Emma understood too late. She reached out, holding Eris's hands tenderly. "My lady, it's all right. I will do whatever I can to help," she promised, tears welling in her own eyes. "It'll be all right, my lady Eris. I'll be by your side," she vowed, embracing her. "Is there something I want to ask? In this world, is there nothing? Was there nothing that could hold my lady back?" Emma wondered as they hugged tightly. Thank you for joining us on this incredible adventure. If you enjoyed what you watched, please consider liking, subscribing, and ringing that notification bell. Your comments mean the world to us and help us improve. The next episode promises even more excitement and unexpected twists, so stay tuned as we embark on this thrilling journey together. Keep the anticipation alive, and we'll catch you in the next episode.